I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the HOLGA camera works. The camera has limitations. One of the limitations about this camera is that it really doesn't have a viewfinder. You can't really see it. It's got this little window right here, but this little window means nothing. Because you can look in there, if you look through the window, that is still not where the lens is. For your camera to be in focus, there's only a few settings. And it has to be precise as far as the distance from the camera to the subject. So if you shoot 3 feet from the subject, you have to set up one person. If you have 6 feet, then you have to have the 3 people from 6 feet. 18 feet or further away from that for it to be in focus. When you go in the dark room and you get ready to load your camera, right, with the film, it usually has a piece of paper in the back and then the film in the front. Right here, this is not good anymore. So, because if you expose this in the light, it ruins it. So you get nothing, right? So this is actually loaded on this reel, like this, like that. It's inside of this, and then what this does is each little section has a number right here. So when you have the camera loaded, right, and you rewind it, you can you'll let's say, okay, I shot number 2, then you fast forward to number 3, and then you're doing number 3 shot. So if you do double exposure and you shoot and you fast forward and then you go in the dark room, take it out, rewind it again, put it back in, you still line it up based on the number, so that when you shoot again, you're shooting on the same frame, and you have to keep track of that first. So for, let's say, for when I did this shoot here for the double exposure, for when Alice has her arm sticking out and the right rabbit is down here, which is supposed to be small here, I have the film loaded. I shoot my 12 shots with her arm sticking out here. Then I go at night and then go into the dark room, take it out, rewind it, put it back in the camera, line it up to the number to the number frame where I wanted to shoot again, and then at night I go and start shooting it from one frame to another. Then I start shooting it from one frame to another frame. So I go from 1 to 2 and 3, using my hand to fast forward. So I had already one shot. I have 12 shots already. Went into the dark room, rewind it, put it back up, line it up to the right number. Then I shoot again for the second time. Now the second time would be at night against a black backdrop. The camera is away at least 20 feet. So I want to make sure that when I shoot that the rabbit is really small, and then I shoot it with just one focus light, one studio light hitting on the rabbit against the black backdrop, so then whatever we had shot before stays there, and the only thing that will overlap now is anything that's not dark. So if you have a black backdrop, that's like invisible. The only thing that will show up is the white rabbit. Light overrides dark. I usually keep the cap on because this camera has light leak, so the least time, less time you keep it exposed to light, the less chances of getting a light leak. A lot of times what I do is after I load the camera with film, I will take this little special black photographic tape and cover all the areas where the camera opens up, because any area here, around here, is prone to have light leaks. So when you put the film and then you close it, you want to make sure that there's no light leaks. So I put tape here, put tape here, put tape there, and then this little window here is where you fast forward the film. The back of the film has a piece of paper, and you can line it up and make sure that it's in the right frame. If the lighting is wrong, then I'll have to either put in a studio light or would have to manipulate when I develop the film. whether I have to add more developing time or less developing time. I wanted my image to be square, right? So if you use this setting, which is just square, then you can only shoot 12 frames. Once you're done your shooting, you take your film in the darkroom and you load it in here. You take the paper out. Remember, you take the paper out, that doesn't get filmed, that doesn't get developed. You take the paper out and then you load the film in here, and then you go through the process of developing your film. Now you only need to be in the darkroom to load the film. Once you put it in this canister right here, you don't need darkness. It's light proof, so you just do all your developing in and out or whatever. And so you only need a darkroom to load the film, to rewind it and load it. There's been times where I had everything set up for shooting, and guess what? I do all my shot and realize I didn't take the cap. This is what the negatives look like after you develop a film. You always gotta put them in a protective sheet, otherwise you get dust on them. And when you scan the images, it's not gonna be good. That's the negative when I was shooting the Queen of Hearts castle. These are all the negatives from shooting the whole entire Alice in Wonderland project. If you want to photograph something that is pretty close, just like this size, you have to use a special lens. And then when you use the special lens, you have to use a ruler and you have to measure it exactly as it is in order to be in focus. So these are the different lenses that I use. You got one that's macro. Then I have, they call HOLGA. This one comes with 3, and they're all based on the distance from the subject to the camera. In order for anything that's closer than 3 feet from the camera to be in focus. So I had to make myself a to-do list. When I was doing a shot, I had to make sure that the first thing I did, measure the distance between the subject and the camera so that I have the right setting in here so that the image will be in focus. The second one was make sure the lighting is right. And the way I did that was by using a regular digital camera and setting the camera with the same setting as the setting that would be for the HOLGA camera, and shooting it to make sure that the lighting is right, so that when I develop it, I know it's gonna come out right. If I shoot it without checking the lighting right, I might develop it and I got nothing, or it either gets overexposed or underexposed. So in order for me to make sure the lighting was right, I used a digital camera, set the digital camera with the same settings as the HOLGA camera. Once I know that the lighting is right, then I go ahead and shoot. Now, remember to take the cap off, right? To shoot, make sure you fast forward, otherwise you end up shooting in the same frame over and over and over. You fast forward, you make sure that you have the right distance, otherwise your image is not going to be in focus. That's another thing that I've made mistakes on. And that's pretty much it.